This video I'm going to explain to you the concept of spaces in your Ropedart practice. Spaces can be used to classify reps. This video is going to help you better understand reps and hopefully is going to make you be able to improvise your own reps. Without further ado, I'll start. After learning the concept of spaces from a video by Wildfire Retreats, it really opened my eyes to what reps are and how it can be used and how I can improvise my own. This spaces theory also follows along closely to Frank Hetz's dark path theory that he explains in his book Traditional and Modern Rope. One side of my body is called the anchor side. This is where the rope is anchored to my hands. The other side of my body is called the lead side. This is the side with the hand that's leading the rope. Imagine endless sticks going upwards from my body parts. My head, my anchor arm, my anchor leg, my lead leg and my lead arm. Now we're going to talk about the spaces. The spaces are everything between these body parts. So we got the anchor face, anchor arm space. Then we got the anchor leg, anchor arm space. Then we got the anchor leg, lead leg space. Then we got the lead leg, lead arm space. And then we got the lead face, lead arm space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. For any type of rep to happen, the Ropedart travels into these spaces. The space can be entered either through the front or the space can be entered from the back. It goes for all spaces. These 5 spaces are going to be there no matter how I move my body. The spaces may go bigger, this one becomes bigger, and this one becomes smaller, but the spaces is still there. I can do just about any move, but the spaces are still going to remain the same. I'm going to wrap my lead arm to use as an example. Okay, we now got a loop going around my lead arm. I'm holding the rope with my anchor hand and my thumb. Now to explain the spaces, we're going to follow the path the rope takes. It's starting in my anchor hand, as always. It's going into the lead leg and lead arm space from the front. To follow the dart path, I'll turn around. It's coming over my shoulder and it's entering my lead face, lead arm space from the back. You can wrap all these body parts. The rope can be on any place on this body part. So it could be in the armpit, but it could also be on the wrist, but the spaces stay the same. I'll show you a quick example by wrapping my lead arm again. We just learned that for a lead arm wrap, when you do it like this, the rope is going to travel to the lead leg, lead arm space. It's entering from the front, and then from the back it's entering the lead face, lead arm space. Back to my anchor hand. But now, if I were to do a wrist wrap, as you can see, the placement of the rope is very different, but the spaces stay the same. So it's still entering in the lead leg, lead arm space from the front, and it's entering the lead face, lead arm space from the back. You can do the same thing with the leg. The rope travels into the anchor leg, lead leg space. It's entering it from the front, and it's entering the lead leg, lead arm space from the back. Now I have wrapped my foot. It's still going through the same spaces, but it's lower on the limb. So the rope can be here or it can be low. The next thing to notice is some body parts can bend. You've got your anchor arm that can turn into an anchor elbow, your lead arm turn into the lead elbow, Your anchor leg can turn into an anchor knee, and your lead leg can turn into a lead knee. I can now wrap the bent body parts. I'll show an elbow wrap. Now, as you can see, the rope is wrapping the elbow. Now, if we look at the spaces it's traveling through, it's going into the lead leg, lead arm space from the front, and from the back it's entering the lead face, lead arm space. So, even if body parts are bent, they still travel through the same spaces as if they were straight. The direction they enter the space and the order they enter the space all determine the type of wrap you can make. I'll show a quick example. The rope is now wrapping my lead leg. The rope dart travels through the anchor leg, lead leg space. It's coming in from the front and it's entering the lead leg, lead arm space from the back. This is called a saddle wrap. So, this looks the same, but it's very different. We're going to follow the path of the dart again, starting from my anchor hand. It's going in the opposite direction. So first it's entering the lead leg, lead arm space from the front, and then it's entering the anchor leg, lead leg space from the back. Now we got a holster wrap. Now that you've learned about the 5 spaces, and now you can enter each space from the front and the back, you can start wrapping each body part by yourself. Remember that the rope can be around any part of your limb, either high or low. But when you wrap a body part, please notice you want to keep the rope as tight as possible. It's called slack control, and it's really going to help you control the rope dart. So you pull it tight after each of these moves. You want to go back to the position where you keep everything tight, no matter the type of wrap you do. Always keep the rope tight. And you have learned the spaces, and you have learned what possibilities you got to make single wraps. You also want to be able to get out of these wraps. I'm going to show you a quick example using this lead side saddle wrap. I'm in home position on the downward swing. I'm going to lift my lead leg and catch it with my lead hand. I'm going to use my anchor hand. I'm going to pull everything tight. I'm going to stop this one for a second so you can see the dart path. It's going into my anchor leg, lead leg space. It's going in from the front, and then it's going through the lead leg, lead arm space, and it's entering that space from the back. Now we basically just want to reverse these steps. So we want to go back into the lead leg, lead arm space, but this time from the front, and then we want to enter the anchor leg, lead leg space from the back. Now we're swinging in this direction, and you want to go into this space. The easiest way to achieve that is by doing a 180 step. So we got a line on the floor, we're going to step the other direction, and you might have noticed that now the direction of my spin is changing. It went from a downward spin, stepping, to an upward spin. And now it's very easy to follow the path of the rope out again. So 2 steps back, and now you are free. By following the dart's path backwards through the spaces, and by 180 stepping you can change the direction of the spin, and you can release any wrap. Some more examples. Lead arm wrap. it tight. 180 step. It's free. Anchor leg wrap. Keep it tight. 180 step. I hope this video about spaces has helped you understand wraps a little bit better, and that it helps you get onto the path of experimenting by yourself. I hope I see you in the next video that's going to talk about techniques that let you quickly change spaces, and I want to do another video about stacking wraps, and it's also going to include the spaces journey. Thank you very much for watching. Welcome to my second video about spaces. In this video I'm going to explain the concept of space changing techniques. I'll explain what they are, how they work and what they do. I'll show you some examples, and I hope that at the end of this video you'll have the tools to use them yourself and be able to experiment with them and maybe come up with some nice space changing techniques of your own. Hope you enjoyed. To summarize my first video, your body consists out of several body parts: head, anchor arm, anchor leg, lead arm, and your torso. There are spaces between these body parts, so we got anchor face, anchor arm space, anchor leg, anchor arm space, anchor leg, lead leg space, lead leg, lead arm space, and lead face, lead arm space. Wraps happen when the rope travels through these spaces. They can enter either from the front, or the space can be entered from the back. The first space changing technique I'm going to explain is a slack lift. I'm starting off with a dragon wrap. Downward swing, diagonal, grab it with your anchor arm, everything tight. Now a dragon wrap is actually a torso wrap. You're wrapping the torso when you break it down. We're going to follow the path the rope takes. It's going to start at the anchor hand, and it's entering the lead leg, lead arm space. It's coming in from the front. We're following it around. Now it's on my anchor face, anchor arm space, and that space is being entered from the back. Coming in again in our lead hands. Now we're doing a slack lift. I'm going to use my anchor hand and I'm going to lift the rope over my head. As you can see, my torso is no longer wrapped, but my lead arm is wrapped. I'm going to follow the dart path again, starting from the anchor hand. It's going into the space of the lead leg and lead arm from the front, but now, as we follow it along, the rope is now entering my lead face and lead arm space. In this example we did a slack lift, so we pulled the rope up. We can also do a slack lift by pushing the rope down. I'm going to start with a dragon wrap again. Okay, so for the dragon wrap, these are the spaces the rope moves through and the direction the rope enters them. Start from the anchor hand, we're going into lead leg, lead arm space, we're going in from the front, we're going to follow the rope to the other side, and it's entering my anchor face, anchor arm space from the back. Now for this one we're going to push our anchor hands down, and now we're basically changing it into a belt wrap. A belt wrap being the rope comes from the anchor hand, it goes into the lead space, lead arm space from the front, we follow the rope around, and now as you can see the rope is going into the anchor leg, anchor arm space. Anytime you make any type of wrap, the rope forms a loop. Another way to quickly change spaces is by pushing your limb into that space. Show it again with a dragon wrap. Now we got a dragon wrap going on. As you can see, the rope is forming a loop. The spaces stay the same. Now if I were to put my lead hand into this space, I changed it. into a neck wrap. So I went from a dragon wrap. Again, we're going to follow the Ropedart path. It's going into the lead leg, lead arm space. And this side goes in the ankle face, ankle arm space. And by putting our hand in and lifting it up, we have now changed spaces again. I'm going to follow the Ropedart path. It's now in my lead face, lead arm space, face, lead arm space, and in my anchor face, anchor arm space. It's very fun to experiment figuring out new ways to use this. As long as you got a body part wrapped in a loop and you got another limb free, you can really experiment with this one. I'll show you another example. Now I'm in a saddle wrap. Saddle wrap is when a rope dart goes into the ankle foot, lead foot space from the front, and it then enters the lead foot, lead arm space from the back. Now I can use my anchor leg and step into this loop, and I have now changed it into a belt wrap. As you can see, this belt wrap is going into the lead leg, lead arm space. I'm going to follow it along, and the rope is now entering the anchor leg, anchor arm space. A well-known technique that lets you change spaces quickly is called jade. It's where you throw the rope under your leg. Go belt wrap, and you step over the rope. Now it has changed spaces. I'm still holding it here, but if I let go, you'll see I now changed the belt wrap into a holster wrap. As you can see, the rope from my anchor hand is going into the lead leg, lead arm space. The back is going into my anchor leg, anchor arm space. Now, when I step over the rope, I'm going to let go of the rope over here, catch it over here. Now, you can see the path has changed spaces. So now it's going into the lead leg, lead arm space, and when I turn around, you can see it's now entering the anchor leg, lead leg space from the back. I'm going to end this video with a long combo using a lot of different space changing techniques. But first of all, I'd like to thank you for watching. And I sincerely hope that this video has explained the concept of spaces a little bit better. And that now you got a clear idea of different techniques that can be used to quickly change spaces. But mostly I hope this video has given you the tools to experiment on your own, and hope you can figure out your own techniques to really do these quick space changing techniques. I'll see you on the next one. That's going to be about stacking reps and how spaces relate to that. I'm going to finish off this video in style by doing this combo where I actually use multiple space changing techniques. Welcome to Stacking Reps. In this video we're going to use the knowledge of the spaces to quickly learn stacking reps. If you haven't already, please check out the first and second video. A rep happens when the rope forms a loop around the body parts. It can be the lead arm, the face, mostly the neck, anchor arm, anchor leg, lead leg, or any part of the torso. Now, the spaces between these body parts is where the rope travels through. We have the lead face, lead arm space. We have the anchor face, anchor arm space, anchor leg, anchor arm space, anchor leg, lead leg space, lead leg, lead arm space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. Now the rope can enter these spaces, either coming in from the front or from the back. It can enter the space from the front, or the rope enters the space from the back. When the rope forms a loop around a body part, this is what we call a wrap. If we're stacking wraps, we're adding more loops around body parts. This can be the same body part, but this can be a new body part. Remember that the rope can be placed high up on a body part, or it can be low on a body part. Same goes for the legs. When we do the first wrap, we can pick any space we want going in from either the front or the back. So we've got 5 spaces, and we can enter them from the front, or we can enter them from the back. In this example, I'll be doing a dragon wrap as my first wrap, and I'll be stacking other wraps on top of that one. This is what a dragon wrap looks like. A dragon wrap is basically a torso wrap. So I'm wrapping my torso, the rope is forming a loop. It goes from my anchor hand, it goes around my torso, back into my anchor hand. The rope goes into my lead leg, lead arm space from the front, and it enters the anchor face, anchor arm space from the back. From this position in my dragon wrap, I'm going to add my next wrap that I'll be stacking on top of this dragon wrap. We are now in a dragon wrap. Now we're going to stack another wrap on top of this. This is where the spaces theory comes in handy, because now we can see we have a whole lot of options. We can either go into the anchor face, anchor arm space. We can go into the anchor leg, anchor arm space. We can go into the anchor leg, lead leg space. We can go into the lead leg, lead arm space, or we can go into the lead arm, lead face, lead arm space. So as you can see, just from a dragon wrap, we already have all these options. In this example, I'm going to pick the anchor face, anchor arm space. I'm now in this position, but for the rope to form a loop, I'll have to pick another space. I'm going to turn around. Now, the rope has entered my anchor face, anchor arm space, but from here, yet again, I have multiple options. I could go into the anchor leg, anchor arm space, and enter it from the back. I could go into the anchor leg, lead leg space. I could go into the lead leg, lead arm space, or I could go into the lead face, lead arm space. My first wrap is a dragon wrap. My second wrap is a neck wrap that I have stacked now on top of it. You can follow the dart path. From my anchor hand, it goes into my lead leg, lead arm space. It travels around, going into my anchor face, anchor arm space. Then from my thumb, it's going back into that space, my anchor face, anchor arm space. It's going to go wrapping my neck. It's coming back into my lead face, lead arm space, back into my anchor hand. Now, as you can see, I have a little bit of rope left. From this position, again, using the spaces, again, I got a ton of options. I can go into my anchor face, anchor arm space, or I can go into my anchor leg, anchor arm space. I could be adventurous and try to get it to go through my anchor leg and lead leg space. I could try to throw it under my lead leg, lead arm space, and I can throw it into my lead face, lead arm space. In this example, I'll throw it in the lead face, lead arm space. Again, I can turn around and I got all these options again. Again, anchor face, anchor arm space. Come over here, lead leg, lead arm space. The rope isn't long enough anymore to go into my anchor leg, lead leg space, but I could go into my lead leg, lead arm space. From I did a dragon rep, neck rep, arm rep. I've now stacked 3 reps using my knowledge of spaces. Once you start stacking your own reps and finding new combinations by using the spaces, you'll notice that sometimes you can throw the rope, but sometimes you cannot. I'll use the example I just did. It's a dragon rep, neck rep, arm rep. Now, this combination, I'm holding all the rope in my anchor hand. This is called an empty knot, because when I let go of the rope, everything comes free, and yes, I can throw it. So this is called a yes knot. Yes, I can throw it. But if I were to do almost the same combination, dragon rep, just a slight difference in the path it takes. Instead of going into my anchor face, anchor arm space, for this neck rep, I went into my lead face, lead arm space. And now, I'm still holding the empty knot, but now if I release it and I throw it, I'm still stuck. So, no, I can't throw it. This is a no knot. Please read Frank Hetz's book, Modern and Traditional Rope Dart, to learn more about empty knots and yes knots and no knots. Now, what I like to do is just randomly go into reps using every knowledge I got from the spaces, and then seeing if it's a yes knot, and if it's not, figuring out a cool way to get out of it and release the rope. By following along my spaces videos, I hope you can now easily figure out how to do single reps, have learned a bunch of space changing techniques, and you have also now learned how to use spaces to learn stacking. You can now, on your own, try to figure out cool ways to combine all these techniques. Show you an example. I am using stacking and space changing techniques to make my own reps. In this video I'll introduce you to spaces dice. They can help you invent your own reps. I'll quickly explain how they work. Quick recap of the 5 videos. We have the lead face, lead arm space. We have the anchor face, anchor arm space, anchor leg, anchor arm space, anchor leg, lead space, lead leg, lead arm space, and lead face, lead arm space. The rope can travel in either from the front or it can enter from the back. I've made 3 types of dice. The first dice is going to determine whether the rope enters the space from the front or the rope enters the space from the back. The second dice is going to determine through which of the 5 spaces the rope dart is going to travel through. For those reps to happen, the rope dart has to travel through 2 spaces to form a loop. So after we throw the first space determining dice, we throw the second space determining dice. If you want to make it a little bit more complex, you can use the space changing dice. This dice determines how you're going to change spaces. For this video, I set up a little example. In reality, you might have to re-roll a dice once or twice because you'll throw something that's basically impossible to do. But it's just to have fun. Put up a little example so everyone can see. We're entering the first space through the front. It's the anchor leg, lead leg space. Then after it goes through there, we're going to need to let it go through the lead face, lead arm space. I'll quickly show you how that looks. As you can see, it enters the anchor leg, lead leg space from the front, and then afterwards it goes into my lead face, lead arm space. 1 dice left here on the bottom, and this is the space changing dice. This one tells us to change spaces by putting a limb out of the loop. Now, in this case, we have our torso is wrapped. We got a leg inside and we got an arm inside. Now, for this example, I'll be pulling out my leg, so I'm just left with an arm wrap. Now, From this position I could throw the dice again and start a combo that I can stack upon this one. I decided I wanted to stack upon this rep. I've thrown my 3 dices again. I've left 1 dice out. It's the dice that determines whether the rope is going to enter through the front or through the back. Because as you can see now, when I have 1 rep going on, the rep is already in front of me. So whatever space I choose, it's always going to be entered through the front. If I would have this position, that's in dark plane, then no matter which of the 5 spaces I pick, it'll be entered from the behind, from the back side. The next rep is going to happen by entering the anchor leg, anchor arm space from the front, and from the back we are entering the lead face, lead arm space. Now in this position, my second throw of the space dices has turned this into a stacking rep. I'm now in this position. The last dice is telling me to change spaces by putting one of my limbs through the loop. So I'm gonna put an arm through this loop. Now again, the rope has changed spaces. I've stacked 2 reps, then I changed spaces once. Now from this position I could either unwrap a single rep and throw the dice again and turn it into another rep, or from this position I could follow the dart's path through the spaces and figure out a way to get out that looks nice and do a shot. As you can see, I just invented a small little combo using just the spaces dices.